Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brother Teacher. I just wanted to weigh in on the incident that took place last Saturday on the 28th of May at the Cincinnati Zoo. The killing of a silverback gorilla by zoo personnel. And this was the result of a parent not paying close enough attention to their child, 4-year-old, I believe it was. And according to eyewitnesses, they heard the mother being asked by the child or told by the child that he wanted to climb into the gorilla enclosure. And the mother said, "No, you're not going to do that," in essence. So the mother, along with several other children and her husband, sometime after that, shortly thereafter, apparently lost sight of her son, her child. And another bystander saw the child detach himself from the mother and the group that they were with and began to climb or attempt to climb into the gorilla's habitat by way of several obstacles, to include a 3-foot climb over one barrier, and then through some bushes, and finally to a wall where he climbed over and fell 15 feet down into a watery moat. And this, of course, gained the attention of a lot of bystanders and onlookers. And then the mother was aware, or became aware, and all of the people hollering and shouting and trying to comfort the little boy, to include the mom and the dad. This gorilla had taken this child, and he saw something in the water, and it was something that he was not accustomed to seeing outside of grown human beings. This was a small human being that he was not experienced in dealing with. So he grabbed him. I guess he found a new toy, perhaps, or maybe he understood that it was a helpless creature. So he grabbed him by his leg and he began to pull him out of the water, through the water. And this, in some people's viewpoint, was a violent behavior. But that's what gorillas do. Gorillas are not human beings. They are not going to pick the child up, stand him up, and walk around holding his hand. They're going to always appear rough because they are wild animals. And that is how they behave in their own environment. But there was a time while the little boy was in the water with the gorilla. Harambe was his name. And the gorilla got him to stand up, and then he snatched him again and pulled him over to his perch and climbed up the ladder where he actually had a perch. And then zoo officials, it is said, was given the okay to put the gorilla down. In other words, they shot one time and killed Harambe, the gorilla, the silverback. Now, mind you, this gorilla weighed approximately between 400 and 450 pounds, and he was 17 years of age. Earlier, they corralled the 2 female gorillas into a cage, and Harambe decided to stay outside of the cage when he saw the commotion and the child fall into the water. But there was not, in my estimation, there was not a time where the gorilla, Harambe, behaved in an aggressive manner to harm the child willfully. I believe, and I think many other people believe, that by virtue of the confusion that was going on with the people hollering and screaming down at the gorilla enclosure, as it were, he was a little disturbed, so he grabbed his new prize and he took it to where he felt comfortable, which was on his perch. He carried the little boy up a ladder to his perch, and that is where he met his demise. He was shot and killed. Well, there are a whole lot of viewpoints and or opinions about who is to blame. Now, I just read not too long ago that there's a poll who should be charged with the killing of the gorilla. Should it be the zoo? Should it be the parents of the child? Or should it be no one or both? What is your viewpoint? I personally feel, this is not my feeling, even though I said feel, I do feel, in my viewpoint, I should say more accurately, that it was perhaps some fault to be meted toward the zoo by not having a secure enough barrier that would allow someone to get into the enclosure in the first place. But it came to my understanding from many reports that that enclosure had been the same for over 30 years without incident, that particular enclosure. But I look on the other side at the parents. How many times have you, mothers or fathers or aunts and uncles and sisters and brothers, had a little brother or a sister, 3 and 4 years old, that had a ball that they were playing with or a toy that rolled out into the street where there was traffic? And that child is not thinking about traffic. That child will dart right out into that traffic, not thinking and considering that they might be killed by a car, because they don't understand that. All they see is what they want, and that is where their focus is. So the point I'm getting at is that you should be paying attention to your child. And if you are dealing with children on a large number, such as was alleged by someone about the mother being a daycare provider in her home, if you're dealing with children and you have your own children also, you should know that when a 3 or 4-year-old tells you that they're going to do something, you can't take that lightly. You have to pay attention to your children. It is that simple. You turn your back and they're gone. I've seen many parents have the little leashes that they would tie to the child and then tie to their wrist or around their waist so that they can always be in contact with the child in case they got busy doing something, that the child was always connected to them. But not in this particular case, and I'm not advocating that that's the only way you could watch your children outside of just putting your eyes on your child and knowing where they are. Now, if it's a crowded day at the zoo or some other amusement park and you have your child with you, all the more reason for you to be more vigilant. There was no reason for that child to get away from its mom and dad and find its way over several barriers and then finally into the gorilla enclosure. That should have never happened. But it did. So who's to blame? I'm not bashing the mom and dad of this child. I'm grateful, along with many of us, that the little boy survived with only abrasions or minor injuries. Howbeit, the mom and dad bears some brunt of the blame because they did not pay attention. Now, let's switch the scenario just for a moment. What if it was a high trafficked area on a highway and your child was playing with a toy or a ball, let's say in this instance, and he said, "Mom, I want my ball." You're not really paying attention to your child, and the ball had rolled out in the street and you didn't see it. So you take your eyes off of your child. He goes out in the street and gets killed by a car because you didn't pay attention. That's just another scenario out of probably thousands that we can imagine in our minds. But I'm sure you get the point. Mom and dad should have been more vigilant in watching their child. It could have been worse than that. But on the other side, should the zoo officials had killed Harambe, should they have done that? I guess we can speculate for days on end about should he have been killed. I was not there, but based on what I saw and what other thousands, countless thousands of other individuals saw on video, That gorilla was not doing any harm to that child. He was being a gorilla. He found a new toy and perhaps a small creature, as I forestated, that he thought that he would protect from this crowd that was hollering into his enclosure. So he took the creature or the new toy to his habitat where he perched at most of the time, apparently. And then he was faced with being shot to death. He was on the endangered species list. You don't find many silverbacks anymore in the world. They're endangered. So there's an activist group against the exploitation of gorillas that's filing a lawsuit against the zoo for killing the gorilla. I don't know. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I will say this again in my closing, and you can leave your comments in the comment section below if you would. I think the mom and dad should share some brunt of the blame for not paying attention to their child. I'm not saying they should be prosecuted or jailed, but they are responsible, in my estimation, for that gorilla being shot and killed had they been paying attention to their child. But at the same time, and I'm not contradicting myself, but at the same time, the fact that the little boy could actually get into that enclosure made a flag go up, and I'm sure in the minds of many people, and to include the zoo officials, that maybe the enclosure was human proof, adult proof, but not child proof. And they will have to govern themselves accordingly from this day forward. It's a sad thing that the gorilla had to die under those circumstances, but let me know what your comments are and your concerns. This is Brother Teacher. I'll see you in the next video.